Silence held for exactly 9 minutes. Then Park Jun-suk's phone vibrated again. Same number. Same stripped metadata. A new message replaced the coordinates. You weren't the only one who chose to disappear. Jun-suk did not move. Trains continued south. Cities passed without knowing his name. The maid had vanished cleanly. Seoul had adjusted. Everyone believed the story was over. That was the mistake. The next message arrived without pause. You survived because you stopped fighting. Jun-suk's pulse slowed. Not from fear, from recognition. This wasn't a threat. It was a classification. Somewhere, someone had been watching collapses, not causing them. Measuring responses. Cataloging who burned out, and who endured absence. The final line appeared. You passed. Others didn't. Jun-suk closed his eyes. Silence had kept him alive once. Now, it was asking a question. And this time, silence was no longer enough. The train continued south. Jun-suk stared at the screen. The message had arrived without sound. No notification. Just a sudden presence, as if it had been waiting for him to look. He checked the metadata. Nothing. Routing stripped. Timestamp absent. The kind of erasure that required resources most people couldn't access. His first instinct was to delete it. His second was to turn the phone off completely. He did neither. Instead, he read it again. You weren't the only one who chose to disappear. The word chose carried weight. Not forced. Not accidental. Deliberate selection. He thought of the maid. Her calm voice in the dark hallway. Her preparation. The passage she shouldn't have known existed. She had acted like someone following a script. Now he wondered whose script it had been. The train slowed approaching Taejun station. Passengers gathered their belongings. Conversations resumed. Life continued in the way it always did when nothing was visibly wrong. Jun-suk remained seated. Another message arrived. Most people fight when they fall. You didn't. His jaw tightened. Someone had been watching. Not just that night. Not just the escape. Everything after. His silence. His redistribution of resources. His refusal to reclaim what had been taken. All of it had been observed. All of it had been catalogued. The third message contained no words. Just coordinates. 37.3514 degrees north, 127.3845 degrees east. A location outside Taejun. Rural. Unimportant. He searched the coordinates on an offline map. The pin landed on what appeared to be an industrial area. Decommissioned. Abandoned years ago. No reason to go there. No reason to send him there. Unless someone wanted confirmation that he would follow instructions without explanation. The train pulled into the station. Jun-suk stood. Took his single bag. Walked toward the exit without looking back. On the platform, passengers dispersed quickly. Families. Business travelers. Students returning home. He was the only one standing still. His phone buzzed once more. You have 2 hours. No signature. No context. Just a deadline. He walked toward the taxi stand. His ribs no longer ached, but memory kept his movements careful. Measured. A driver approached, smiling with professional warmth. Jun-suk showed him the coordinates. The driver's smile faded slightly. That area's been closed for years, he said. I know. Nothing out there anymore. That's fine. The driver hesitated. Then nodded. Opened the door. Jun-suk got in. They drove in silence through streets that gradually emptied. Buildings gave way to warehouses. Warehouses gave way to fields. The city receded until it became something remembered rather than present. After 20 minutes, the driver pulled over. "Can't go further," he said. "Roads not maintained." Jun-suk paid. Added extra without speaking. He walked the remaining distance alone. The freight station appeared slowly through the dust. Rusted gates hung open, frozen mid-swing. Security cameras pointed at nothing, lenses cracked and dark. Old schedules still hung inside the main building. Faded. Curling at the edges. Jun-suk stepped inside. The air smelled of oil and concrete dust. His footsteps echoed once, then were absorbed into the space. He checked his phone. No new messages. He waited. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Nothing moved. No sound except wind pushing through gaps in the walls. He was about to leave when he noticed something. A cup is on the table near the window. Still faintly warm. Someone had been here recently. Someone was still here. His pulse remained steady. Not from calm. From preparation. He turned slowly, scanning the space. That was when the lights came on. The lights flickered once before stabilizing. Not all of them. Just one strip overhead. Then another near the far wall. Enough illumination to make visibility deliberate without removing shadows entirely. Jun-suk did not move. A man stepped from behind a support column. Mid-40s. Average height. Unremarkable features. The kind of face that disappeared in crowds without effort. He wore civilian clothes. Clean hands. No visible weapon. "You're earlier than expected," the man said. His voice carried no accent. No regional markers. Neutral in the way that suggested training rather than origin. Jun-suk remained silent. The man smiled faintly. "That confirms it." "Confirms what?" Jun-suk asked. "That you're still careful." The others weren't. The word others hung in the air. Jun-suk's expression did not change, but internally he recalibrated. This wasn't singular. Whatever this was, it had happened before. The man gestured toward a second door at the back of the station. "They're waiting," he said. "Who?" "People who made the same mistake you did." "What mistake?" "Surviving quietly." The man walked toward the door without checking if Jun-suk followed. Confident. Not from arrogance. From certainty. Jun-suk waited 3 seconds. Then followed. The door opened into a smaller room. Concrete floors. Metal chairs are arranged in no particular pattern. A single overhead bulb cast uneven light across 3 figures. They looked up as he entered. The first was a man in his 50s. Worn face. Steady eyes. Jun-suk recognized the posture before the face, a fixer from Daegu who had disappeared 4 years ago after a territorial dispute that had never been resolved. The second was younger. Mid-30s. A financial courier, Jun-suk, had heard about it only once, in connection with a car fire in Busan that had killed 2 people. Apparently not 3. The third was a woman. She sat with her back straight. Hands folded. Hair pulled back. Jun-suk recognized her not by face, but by the way she held herself. She had cleaned his office once. Years ago. One afternoon, while his usual staff was absent. She had worked silently, efficiently, and never returned. He had not thought about her since. Now she looked directly at him. "You stayed quiet," she said. "That's why you're here." Her tone was not congratulatory. Just factual. Jun-suk stepped further inside. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Not locked. Just final. "How many of us?" he asked. The man who had led him answered from near the doorway. Fewer than you think. More than anyone knows. The fixer from Daegu leaned forward slightly. They told you that you survived, he said. They didn't tell you why. The courier spoke next, voice quiet but clear. Everyone thinks power is taken. Seized. Fought for. He paused. It isn't. The woman continued the thought. It's tested. Over and over. You were tested when you came home late. Jun-suk's mind returned to that night. The maid's voice in the darkness. The passage behind the wine cellar. The precision of her movements. Who tested us? He asked. The man near the door shook his head. Wrong question. The woman leaned forward. What tested you? Jun-suk said nothing. The fixer stood slowly. Walked to the wall where someone had pinned photographs. Faces Jun-suk did not recognize. Dates. Locations. Lines connecting events across years. Power in Korea's underworld used to be territorial, the fixer said. Then it became financial. Then it became invisible. He tapped one of the photographs. When it became invisible, something else formed. Not to control it. To maintain it. The courier added, violence draws attention. Attention draws reform. Reform destabilizes everything. The woman stood. So something else emerged. Not an organization. A filter. She walked to the opposite wall, where a map had been marked with small red dots. Seoul. Busan. Daegu. Incheon. Dozens of them. When someone grows too visible, she said, pressure is applied. Delays. Betrayals. Internal fractures. Not to destroy them, the man at the door continued. To see how they respond. Jun-suk processed this slowly. And those who respond wrong. The fixer returned to his seat. Most panic. Some fight. A few vanish. And us? The woman met his eyes. We stayed silent. The room settled into stillness. Outside, the wind pushed against the building. Metal creaked. Time continued without acknowledgement. The man at the door finally spoke again. You think the maid saved you? Jun-suk's attention sharpened. She didn't. The statement required no elaboration. Jun-suk waited. The woman walked back to her chair. Sat with the same precise posture she had maintained years ago in his office. The maid was assigned to observe, she said. Not intervene. The fixer nodded slowly. Each of us had someone. A cleaner. A driver. An assistant. People peripheral enough to be invisible. The courier spoke next. They don't work for anyone. They're trained to watch. To report deviations. Nothing more. Jun-suk's mind circled the memory. 3 years of silence. 3 years of the maid moving through his house without conversation. Without curiosity. What were they watching for, he asked. The man at the door answered. Patterns. Excess. Instability. When power becomes too concentrated, it attracts problems. Legal. Political. Violent. The observers report early indicators, the woman continued. Then pressure is applied. Small disruptions. Administrative delays. Internal doubt. To destabilize us, Jun-suk said. To test you, the fixer corrected. Destabilization is the method. Evaluation is the purpose. The courier stood. Walked to the photographs on the wall. Most people fight when pressure arrives. They escalate. Retaliate. Make noise. He tapped one photo. Then another. These people fought. They're gone now. Not dead necessarily. Just erased from relevance. The woman pointed to a different section of the wall. Others tried to negotiate. Form alliances. Redistribute power to maintain position. Those were evaluated differently, the man at the door said. Some succeeded temporarily. Most collapsed eventually. Jun-suk studied the photographs. Dozens of faces. Some familiar. Most unknown. And us? He asked again. The fixer smiled without warmth. We disappeared. Completely. No negotiation. No retaliation. Just absence. That behavior is rare, the courier said. Rare enough to be catalogued, the woman added. Jun-suk turned to face them fully. You're saying survival wasn't luck? No, the man at the door replied. It was classification. The room settled again. The bulb overhead flickered once but held. The fixer leaned back in his chair. I was removed 4 years ago. Territorial dispute in Taegu. My own people turned. My accounts were frozen. My properties were seized. He spoke without emotion. I could have fought. I had resources hidden. Contacts in Busan. I could have rebuilt. Why didn't you? Jun-suk asked. Because I realized something was wrong. Not with my operation. With the pattern itself. The courier continued the thought. I was targeted in Busan. Car fire. 2 people died. I was supposed to be third. He paused. Someone warned me. Not explicitly. Just delayed me. 30 minutes. That's all it took. When I survived, he said, I stayed gone. Didn't reach out. Didn't rebuild. Just disappeared. The woman's turn. I was never operational. I was infrastructure. Financial routing. Document management. The kind of work that keeps systems running invisibly. One day, my access was revoked. My accounts are closed. My apartment searched. She folded her hands. I could have exposed connections. I had documentation on dozens of operations. Insurance. But you didn't, Jun-suk said. No. Because exposure would have meant continuation. I wanted out. The man at the door walked to the center of the room. Each of you made the same choice. Silence over survival. Absence over adaptation. That choice marked you, he said. Jun-suk's jaw tightened. Marked for what? No one answered immediately. Finally, the woman spoke. For this. For observation of a different kind. The fixer stood. We were removed from the system. But we weren't released from it. The courier moved toward the map. Someone is tracking every person who survived quietly. Building a registry. Of what? Jun-suk asked. The man at the door met his eyes. Of people who can endure absence. Who doesn't need power to function. Who can operate without structure. The implication settled slowly. Jun-suk walked to the map. Studied the red dots. How many? He asked. 43 confirmed, the woman said. Possibly more. And the maid? Silence. Longer this time. The man at the door finally spoke. She broke protocol when she warned you. Jun-suk turned from the map. What protocol? The woman stood again. Walked to a filing cabinet in the corner. Pulled out a thin folder. Set it on the table. Inside were printed pages. No official letterhead. No signatures. Just typed instructions. Jun-suk read the first page. Observer guidelines, residential placement. Role, maintain assigned position for a minimum of 24 months. Function, document behavioral deviations without intervention. Protocol, report through designated channels only. Restriction, direct contact with the subject is prohibited under all circumstances. He flipped to the next page. Deviation indicators. Excessive violence. Public visibility. Institutional engagement. Expansion beyond assigned territory. Disruption of adjacent operations. The list continued for 2 pages. The final page was different. Termination of observation. Phase 1, administrative pressure. Phase 2, internal fracture. Phase 3, subject response evaluation. Phase 4, classification and archive. Jun-suk set the folder down. This is a system. Yes, the man at the door confirmed. Who runs it? The fixer shook his head. No one. That's the point. The courier explained. It's informal. Distributed. No central authority. Just protocols that have evolved over decades. The woman continued. When Korea's underworld began consolidating in the 80s, violence became unsustainable. Too visible. Too costly. Legal reforms followed, the fixer said. Financial tracking. International cooperation. The old method stopped working. So something new emerged, the courier added. Not to control power. To manage its growth. The man at the door walked to the window. Looked out at the empty station yard. The filter operates through observation and pressure. When someone grows too dominant, too rigid, observers are placed nearby. They watch for indicators, the woman said. Then pressure is applied. Not by the observers. By the system itself. Delays in shipments, the fixer said. Regulatory scrutiny. Internal betrayal. All coordinated loosely through information sharing. Jun-suk processed this. And if the target fights? Then pressure increases until collapse, the courier said. And if they negotiate? Evaluation continues. Most fail eventually. And if they disappear? The woman met his eyes. Then they're marked for archive. Catalogued as stable under pressure. Jun-suk walked back to the table. Picked up the folder again. The maid was observing me for 3 years. Yes, the man at the door confirmed. She reported my behavior. Yes. And when the pressure came, she was supposed to stay silent. Yes. But she didn't. The room grew colder. The fixer leaned forward. She warned you. Showed you the passage. Helped you escape. That was unauthorized, the woman said. More than unauthorized, the courier added. It was interference. Jun-suk set the folder down carefully. Why would she do that? No one answered. The man at the door turned from the window. 2 possibilities. Either she made a personal choice, which would be unprecedented. He paused. Or she detected corruption in the system itself. The words hung suspended. The woman spoke quietly. If the filter is being manipulated, observers would notice first. They see patterns others miss. The fixer nodded. And if an observer breaks protocol, it signals something fundamental is wrong. Jun-suk's pulse slowed. Where is she now? Silence returned. Longer this time. Finally, the man at the door spoke. We don't know. She disappeared the same night you did. Completely? Jun-suk asked. No trace. No contact. No confirmation. The courier added, she's either hiding. Or being hidden. Or removed, the fixer said quietly. Jun-suk walked to the photographs again. Studied the faces of people who had been evaluated and archived. You said 43 confirmed survivors. Yes, the woman confirmed. Are any of them missing? She hesitated. 3. In the last 6 months. Missing how? They stopped responding to contact. Their locations are unknown. Jun-suk turned. And you think the system is being compromised? The man at the door nodded slowly. The filter was designed to prevent consolidation. To maintain distributed power. But if someone is gathering the survivors, the woman said, then the filter becomes a recruitment tool. The implication was clear. Jun-suk returned to his seat. What do you want from me? The man at the door walked to the table. We want to know if you're willing to help us understand what's happening. How? By accepting their offer when it comes. Jun-suk leaned back. What offer? The woman answered. Eventually, someone will contact you. They'll offer participation. A role in something larger. They'll frame it as an opportunity, the fixer said. A chance to contribute to stability. The courier added, they'll tell you that your survival demonstrated something valuable. And they'll ask you to help identify others, the man at the door finished. Jun-suk processed this. You want me to infiltrate? We want you to observe, the woman corrected. The way the maid observed you. And report back. Yes. Jun-suk stood. Walked to the door. Tested the handle. Not locked. He could leave. Return to whatever life he had been building in his absence. Disappear permanently. Instead, he turned. Why me? The fixer smiled slightly. Because the maid chose you. That wasn't an answer. The woman stood. It is. She broke protocol for you specifically. Not for others, she observed. Just you. We don't know why, the courier said. But the fact that she did mean something. The man at the door walked closer. The maid spent 3 years in your house. She saw how you operated. How did you decide? How you treated people when you thought no one was watching. And she chose to intervene, the woman said. That choice reveals judgment. Jun-suk's jaw tightened. Or it reveals desperation. Perhaps, the fixer acknowledged. But either way, it marks you as different. The courier moved to the filing cabinet. Pulled out another folder. This is your file. He set it on the table. Jun-suk did not open it. What's in it? 3 years of observations. Behavioral patterns. Decision-making analysis. Relationship management. The woman walked to his side. You consolidated power in Seoul without excessive violence. You maintained operational security. You avoided public visibility. You were successful, the man at the door said. But not destabilizing. The fixer added, that balance is rare. Most people who achieve power become liabilities. Jun-suk finally opened the folder. The first page was a summary. Subject, Park Jun-suk. Classification, stable under pressure. Risk assessment, low. Recommendation, archive, monitor for future utility. He flipped through the pages. Detailed logs. Times. Locations. Conversations summarized without audio. The maid had documented everything. Not judgment. Just facts. But on the final page, something different. A handwritten note. Not typed. Not formatted. Just 3 lines in careful script. The subject demonstrated restraint when provoked. Subject redistributed resources without being observed. Subject values structure over dominance. Below that, 2 words. Personal recommendation, protect. Jun-suk stared at the note. The woman spoke quietly. That wasn't in the original report. She added it later. After you disappeared, the courier said. She filed an addendum. The fixer leaned forward. That's when we knew something was wrong. Observers don't add personal recommendations. They report. They classify. They move on. The man at the door returned to the window. She broke protocol twice. Once by warning you. Once by advocating for you. Jun-suk closed the folder. Where is she? The woman shook her head. We don't know. She disappeared completely. No trace. None. Bank accounts. Closed. Properties. Never owned any. Family. No records. Jun-suk set the folder down carefully. She was infrastructure. Like you, he said to the woman. Possibly. But more carefully hidden. The courier spoke. We've tried to locate her. Used every connection. Every resource. Nothing. Jun-suk asked. Nothing. She's either gone by choice or being prevented from surfacing. The man at the door turned. That's why we need you. If she protected you, there's a reason. And that reason might help us understand what's happening to the filter. Jun-suk walked to the map again. Studied the red dots. You said 3 survivors are missing. Yes, the woman confirmed. When did they disappear? 2 months ago. 4 weeks ago. And 9 days ago. In what order? She pointed to the map. Seoul. Busan. Daegu. Jun-suk traced the pattern. That's not random. No, the fixer agreed. It's systematic. Someone is removing specific people, the courier said. The woman added, people who survived the filter. People who were classified as stable. Jun-suk turned. You think someone is building something? The man at the door nodded. We think someone is selecting. Gathering people who can endure pressure. Who can operate without structure. For what purpose? We don't know. But the maid might. Jun-suk returned to the table. Placed his hand on the folder. What do you need me to do? The woman answered. Wait for contact. When it comes, accept their offer. Learn what they're building. And then report back. Help us understand if this is evolution or corruption. Jun-suk considered. The fixer stood. You have 2 choices. Disappear permanently and hope they lose interest. Or participate and help us determine intent. The courier added, either way, you're already involved. The maid made sure of that. The man at the door walked to Jun-suk. We're asking for observation. Nothing more. Stay silent. Stay careful. And tell us what you see. Jun-suk met his eyes. And if what I see is dangerous, then we'll know to disappear more thoroughly. Jun-suk nodded slowly. How much time do I have? Unknown. Could be days. Could be weeks. How will they contact me? The woman smiled slightly. The same way we did. When you're not expecting it. Jun-suk left the station alone. No one followed. No instructions. Just the implicit understanding that contact would resume when necessary. He walked back toward the main road. The sun had shifted lower, casting long shadows across empty fields. His phone remained silent. He caught a bus back to Daejeon proper. Sat near the rear. Watched passengers board and exit without recognition. Anonymity felt different now. Not like protection. Like placement. He checked into a small hotel near the station. Paid cash. Used a name that meant nothing. The room was clean. Minimal. A bed. A desk. A window overlooking a parking lot. He sat by the window and waited. 2 hours passed. His phone buzzed. Not a message. A call. Unknown number. He answered without speaking. A voice came through. Male. Measured. Not the man from the station. Park Jun-suk. You've been quiet. Jun-suk said nothing. That's good. Silence demonstrates control. Most people fill space with noise. The voice paused. You didn't. What do you want? Jun-suk asked. To offer context. You met people today. They explained a system. Yes. But they didn't explain why the system matters. Jun-suk waited. Korea's underworld has been fragmenting for 2 decades. Power is distributed now. Cellular. No single authority. The voice continued without emotion. This creates stability. But it also creates vulnerability. Distributed systems require coordination. Without it, they collapse into chaos. And you coordinate, Jun-suk said. No. We evaluate. There's a difference. What difference? Coordination requires control. Evaluation requires observation. We don't direct. We measure. Jun-suk stood. Walked to the window. You measure what? Capacity for absence. Most people need power to function. They require authority. Recognition. Control. But some people don't. They operate effectively without structure. Without validation. The voice paused again. You demonstrated that capacity when you disappeared. You redistributed resources. You avoided revenge. You walked away from everything you had built. And you were watching, Jun-suk said. Yes. That behavior is logged. Analyzed. Compared against historical patterns. For what purpose? Classification. People who can endure absence serve a function others cannot. Jun-suk's jaw tightened. What function? Stability maintenance. When systems fragment, someone must operate invisibly to prevent collapse. Not leaders. Infrastructure. The voice shifted tone slightly. You're being offered a role. Not authority. Participation. In what? In ensuring distributed power remains stable. In identifying potential failures before they destabilize broader networks. Jun-suk returned to his seat. You want me to become an observer. We want you to help evaluate others. Your judgment has been tested. Your capacity confirmed. And if I refuse? Then you continue as you are. Invisible. Archived. No interference. The voice paused. But you'll remain catalogued. And catalog means availability. The implication was clear. Refusal meant passive monitoring. Acceptance meant active participation. How many others have accepted? Jun-suk asked. Enough to maintain current operations. Not enough to expand evaluation into emerging territories. Where? Southeast Asia. Eastern Europe. Markets where Korean networks are establishing a presence. Jun-suk processed this. You're building international infrastructure. We're extending evaluation protocols. Power consolidates everywhere. The same patterns repeat. The same vulnerabilities emerge. And you want people who can observe without interfering. Yes. People who understand power but don't require it. The voice stopped. Jun-suk stared at the parking lot below. Cars came and went. People returned to ordinary lives. I need time, he said. You have 48 hours. After that, the offer expires. Why the deadline? Because evaluation continues regardless. Either with your participation or without it. The call ended. Jun-suk set the phone down. He sat in silence for several minutes. Then he sent a message to the number the woman had given him. They contacted me. The response came quickly. What did they offer? Participation. Evaluation role. 48 hours to decide. Accept it. Why? Because we need to know if they're building what we think they're building. Jun-suk stared at the message. And if they are, then we'll know how deep this goes. He deleted the conversation. Outside, evening settled over Taejun. Tomorrow, he would decide. Tonight, he would prepare for a war that looked like cooperation. Morning arrived without ceremony. Jun-suk woke early. Showered. Dressed. Checked his phone. No messages. No calls. Just silence that felt deliberately maintained. He went downstairs. Found a cafe near the hotel. Ordered coffee and sat by the window. 48 hours meant a decision by tomorrow morning. He considered the variables. Acceptance meant access. Information. Understanding what was being built. Refusal meant continued invisibility. Safety. But no answers. The coffee arrived. He drank slowly. His phone buzzed. Not a call. A message. Unknown sender. No metadata. He opened it. A photograph. His breath stopped. The maid. Alive. She sat at a cafe table. Coastal. Windows showed the ocean in the background. Her posture was the same as always. Back straight. Hands folded around a cup. She was not looking at the camera. She was looking slightly past it. As if she knew someone was photographing her but chose not to acknowledge it directly. Below the photo, a message. You were never meant to see this. Jun-suk's pulse slowed. Someone had access to information they shouldn't have. The maid's location. Her current status. Proof she survived. A second message arrived. She's been relocated. Protected. But not by the people who contacted you. Jun-suk typed quickly. Who are you? The response took longer this time. Someone who wants the same thing you do. Answers. What answers? Why survivors are disappearing? Why is the filter changing? Why did she break protocol? Jun-suk stared at the photo again. The background showed a small coastal town. Not immediately identifiable. But Korean, Eastern Shore based on the light. Where is this? Somewhere she can't be found easily. But she's not hiding voluntarily. Explain. She was extracted after helping you. Not arrested. Not eliminated. Removed from the system entirely. By who? By people who realized she had detected something wrong. Jun-suk set his coffee down. What did she detect? That the filter is being repurposed. That observers are being identified and isolated. Why? Because observers know too much. They've seen decades of patterns. They understand how power actually functions. And someone wants that knowledge controlled. The message sat unanswered for a moment. Then another line appeared. The people who contacted you yesterday aren't maintaining the filter. They're weaponizing it. Jun-suk's jaw tightened. How do you know this? Because I used to help coordinate observers. Before I realized what was happening. And now? Now I'm trying to understand how deep the corruption goes. Jun-suk typed carefully. The maid. Can you reach her? No. She's isolated completely. No communication. No travel. Protected but contained. Is she safe? For now. But only because she's valuable. Valuable how? She knows every observer she trained with. Every protocol. Every deviation she witnessed in 3 years. They want her knowledge. The response was immediate. Yes. And they're deciding whether extraction or elimination is more efficient. Jun-suk stood. Walked to the counter. Ordered another coffee. Returned to his seat. His phone buzzed again. You have a decision to make. I know. If you accept their offer, you'll gain access. But you'll also be monitored more closely. And if I refuse? Then you'll be archived. But you might be safer. Jun-suk considered this. What would you do? The response took longer. I'd accept. Because right now we're operating blind. We need someone inside. Inside what? Inside whatever they're building with the survivors, they're gathering. Jun-suk finished his coffee. How do I contact you again? You don't. I'll contact you when necessary. Why should I trust you? Because I sent you proof she's alive. That's a risk I didn't have to take. The logic held. Jun-suk typed once more. If I accept, what do you need me to find out? 3 things. How many survivors have they gathered? Where they're being positioned? And what they're being prepared to do? Nothing else. One more thing. What? Find out if they know about the maid. If they're looking for her. And what they plan to do when they find her. The message ended. Jun-suk deleted the conversation. He sat for another 20 minutes. Watching people pass outside. Ordinary lives continue without knowledge of systems operating beneath visibility. Then he made his decision. He would accept. Not because he trusted either side. But because the maid had chosen to protect him. And now he would try to protect her. Even if she never knew. By evening, Seoul felt different. Not visibly. Streets are still filled with traffic. Markets still operated. Business continued. But beneath surface activity, something had shifted. Jun-suk noticed it in the news. Small items. Buried in business sections. A mid-level executive at a logistics company had resigned suddenly. Personal reasons. No details. A prosecutor in Busan had requested medical leave. Stress-related. No timeline for return. A journalist known for investigative work had stopped publishing. Social media is inactive for 8 days. Individual events meant nothing. Together, they formed a pattern. Jun-suk sat in his hotel room scrolling through reports. Cross-referencing names with locations. Building connections invisible to casual observation. The logistics executive had connections to port operations in Incheon. The prosecutor had been investigating financial irregularities in southern networks. The journalist had published 3 articles on shadow banking in the last year. All 3 had visibility into systems most people ignored. All 3 had stopped working simultaneously. His phone buzzed. Message from the woman at the station. Are you watching the news? Yes. 3 more. I saw. This isn't pruning anymore. No. What is it? Jun-suk typed slowly. Selection. They're removing anyone who can see patterns. Observers. And adjacent. People with visibility into coordination mechanisms. Why now? Because something is accelerating. The conversation paused. Another message from the woman. We need to meet again. When? Tonight. Same location. Is it safe? Safer than staying isolated. Jun-suk checked the time. 3 hours until dark. I'll be there. He packed his bag. Checked out of the hotel. Took a bus to the station. The freight yard looked the same. Empty. Abandoned. Time suspended. He entered through the same door. The lights were already on. The same 4 people waited. But their posture had changed. More rigid. More alert. The man at the door spoke first. It's accelerating. The fixer nodded. 3 confirmed removals in Seoul. 2 in Busan. 1 in Daegu. The courier added, all within 48 hours. The woman pulled out updated photographs. New faces. New red dots on the map. These aren't survivors, she said. These are infrastructure. People who understand coordination. Jun-suk studied the images. They're eliminating visibility. Yes, the man at the door confirmed. Anyone who can see how the system operates is being removed. Removed how? Jun-suk asked. Quietly. Resignations. Medical leave. Sudden travel. Nothing violent. Nothing visible. The fixer leaned forward. But gone nonetheless. The courier pointed to the map. We've lost contact with 2 more observers. Both were scheduled to report. Neither did. When? Jun-suk asked. 3 days ago. And yesterday. The woman added, we can't confirm their status. But silence from observers is unprecedented. Jun-suk walked to the map. Traced the pattern. Seoul. Busan. Daegu. Incheon. Gwangju. Major cities. Major networks. This isn't random, he said. No, the man at the door agreed. It's systematic. Someone is preparing for something. Or preventing something, the fixer said. Jun-suk turned. What could they be preventing? The woman answered. Exposure. If observers start comparing notes. If infrastructure personnel start questioning coordination. If someone connects the pattern. Then the entire system becomes visible, the courier finished. The implication settled. Jun-suk returned to the table. You think they're consolidating control? We think they're converting the filter into something else, the man at the door said. Converting it into what? A hierarchy. The filter was designed to prevent consolidation. But if someone controls who gets observed, who gets pressured, who survives. Then they control distribution of power, Jun-suk finished. Exactly. The fixer stood. This was supposed to be invisible. Distributed. No central authority. But central authority is forming, the woman said. And they're using survivors as a foundation. Jun-suk processed this. People who can operate without structure become the structure. Yes, the man at the door confirmed. The courier walked to the filing cabinet. Pulled out another folder. This arrived 2 hours ago. He set it on the table. Inside was a list of names. Jun-suk recognized some immediately. Others were unfamiliar. At the bottom, written by hand, one name stood out. Park Jun-suk. Next to it, status, unresolved. He looked up. What does this mean? The woman answered quietly. It means you're back under evaluation. Why? The man at the door walked closer. Because you met with us. Because you've been asking questions. Because your behavior since accepting their offer has been inconsistent. I haven't accepted yet. They don't know that. But they know you haven't refused either. The fixer added, hesitation is suspicious. It suggests deliberation. Deliberation suggests doubt. And doubt suggests unreliability, the courier finished. Jun-suk stared at his name. Status, unresolved. What happens to unresolved cases? The room went quiet. Finally, the woman spoke. Historically. Additional pressure. Enhanced observation. And eventually, reclassification. Reclassification to what? Unstable. Which means removal. Jun-suk set the folder down carefully. How long do I have? The man at the door checked his phone. Unknown. But probably less than we thought. Jun-suk left the station at midnight. No one followed. But that meant nothing now. Observation had evolved beyond physical presence. Phones tracked. Transactions logged. Movement patterns analyzed. Invisibility required more than absence. He took a taxi to Taejun Station. Bought a ticket south using cash. Boarded without checking the destination. The train was nearly empty. Late night service. People sleeping or staring at phones. He sat near the rear. Watched darkness pass outside. His phone buzzed. Not a call. A notification. Bank account accessed. Password changed. Access denied. He tried his secondary account. Same result. Then his third. All frozen. Not seized. Just locked. Someone was applying pressure. He powered off his phone. Removed the SIM card. Placed both in separate pockets. The train continued south through cities that barely registered in his awareness. At Daegu, he exited. Found a motel. Paid cash. Used a different false name. The room was smaller than before. Single window. Thin wall. The sound of traffic is constant. He sat on the bed and inventoried resources. Cash, enough for 2 weeks if careful. Contacts, compromised or unavailable. Safe locations, none confirmed secure. Information, incomplete but actionable. He had accepted the filter's offer mentally but not communicated it. That hesitation had triggered reevaluation. Now he was unresolved. Which meant they were deciding what to do with him. He lay back on the bed. Stared at ceiling tiles stained by years of moisture. Sleep did not come. Instead, he thought about the maid. 3 years of silence. 3 years of observation. Then 1 night of intervention. That choice had cascaded into everything that followed. His survival. His disappearance. His current classification. All of it traced back to her decision. But why had she decided? The file had said, personal recommendation, protect. Not standard protocol. Non-OT objective assessment. Personal. Which meant she had made a judgment beyond data. She had seen something in him that merited deviation from years of training. What had she seen? He closed his eyes. The answer would not come tonight. Morning arrived gray and cold. Jun-suk woke to knocking. Not loud. 3 taps. Deliberate. He approached the door carefully. Looked through the peephole. A woman stood outside. Not the woman from the station. Younger. Civilian clothes. Hands visible. Empty. Park Jun-suk, she said quietly. I need 30 seconds. He opened the door partially. She glanced down the hallway. Then back at him. They're coming. Not today. But soon. Who are you? Someone who was removed 6 months ago. I stayed quiet like you. But I made a mistake. What mistake? I tried to contact another survivor. They were monitoring. She pulled an envelope from her jacket. This is everything I know about what they're building. Names. Locations. Timeline. She held it toward him. Why give this to me? Because you're still unresolved. That means you still have mobility. I don't. He took the envelope. Where will you go? Somewhere they've already searched. She turned to leave. Paused. The maid. They're looking for her. I know. No. You don't understand. They're not just looking. They're negotiating. Jun-suk's jaw tightened. With who? With her. She hive as leverage they need. Information about observers they've lost track of. And if she doesn't cooperate? The woman met his eyes. Then they'll make her example visible. To remind other observers what happens when protocol breaks. She walked away quickly. Disappeared down the stairwell. Jun-suk closed the door. Locked it. He opened the envelope. Inside, printed pages. Photographs. A handwritten map. The first page was a list. Confirmed survivors, current status. 43 names. Locations. Classification status. He found his own name. Park Jun-suk, status, unresolved, priority, medium. Next to several other names, status, integrated. Those survivors had accepted. Were now participating. 3 names showed different notation. Status, removed, method, unspecified. Those were the missing ones. The woman from the station had mentioned 3. Here they were. Confirmed gone. He flipped to the next page. Operational structure, preliminary assessment. A hierarchy chart. Hand-drawn. Incomplete. At the top, Coordination Council, identity unknown, estimated 5 to 7 members. Below that, regional evaluators, 12 confirmed. Below that, field observers, 40 plus active. At the bottom, integrated survivors, 18 confirmed. Jun-suk was supposed to become number 19. The third page showed locations. Seoul. Busan. Daegu. Gwangju. Incheon. But also international. Bangkok. Manila. Vladivostok. Osaka. The filter was expanding beyond Korea. The final page was different. A photograph. Surveillance quality. Grainy. It showed a meeting. 6 people around a table. Faces partially obscured. But one face was clear. The older man from Itaewon. The one who had offered Jun-suk partnership before everything collapsed. He was sitting at that table. Not as a target. As a participant. Jun-suk set the pages down carefully. The man who had betrayed him was part of the Coordination Council. Which meant the filter hadn't removed him. It had recruited him. His phone buzzed. Despite being powered off. He turned it over. The screen was on. Message displayed. You have 18 hours to confirm acceptance. He had not turned the phone on. They had activated it remotely. Below the message, another line appeared. Failure to confirm will be interpreted as refusal. Refusal will be resolved permanently. The screen went dark. Jun-suk stood. Grabbed his bag. Left the motel through the rear exit. He had 18 hours to decide. Accept and gain access, but lose freedom. Refuse and disappear but lose answers. Or find a third option that did not yet exist. He walked in the morning streets, filled with people who would never know his name. And began preparing for something he could not yet define. 18 hours became 12. Jun-suk moved through Daegu without a pattern. Bus to subway to taxi. Paid cash. Changed locations every 2 hours. His phone remained off. But that no longer mattered. They had demonstrated capability. Remote activation. Message delivery. Deadline enforcement. The illusion of privacy had ended. He found a library. Sat in the reference section surrounded by students and elderly readers. Opened the envelope again. Studied the hierarchy chart. Coordination Council. 5 to 7 members. The older man from Itaewon was one. Who were the others? He thought about the pattern. The filter had operated for decades without a central authority. Distributed. Informal. Self-regulating through shared protocols. But systems evolve. Or they're replaced. Someone had shown an opportunity in distribution. Had recognized that a network designed to prevent consolidation could be repurposed to enable it. Slowly. Carefully. Over the years. By controlling observers, they controlled information. By controlling information, they control the evaluation. By controlling the evaluation, they controlled who survived. And survivors became assets. Pierre le trained to operate invisibly. To endure pressure. To function without structure. Perfect infrastructure for expansion. Jun-suk closed the envelope. His phone buzzed again despite being off. He checked it. 8 hours remaining. He powered it off completely. Removed the battery. The message had already been delivered. He left the library. Walked to a different district. Found a small restaurant. Ordered for that he did not taste. While eating, he noticed something. A man at the counter. Mid-30s. Ordinary appearance. But his posture was wrong. Too alert. Too aware. Observer posture. Jun-suk finished his meal. Paid. Left through the front. Walked 3 blocks. Entered a department store. Exited through a different entrance. The man was gone. But 20 minutes later, a woman appeared. Different person. Same posture. They were rotating surveillance. Which meant they expected him to run. Or wanted him to know he was being watched. Jun-suk stopped running. Instead, he found a cafe. Sat by the window. Ordered coffee. Made himself visible. If they wanted to watch, let them watch. He reassembled his phone. Powered it on. 4 hours remaining. He typed a message to the number that had contacted him initially. I accept. The response was immediate. Confirmed. Instructions will follow. No celebration. No welcome. Just acknowledgement. He deleted the exchange. Then sent a second message. To the woman from the station. I'm in. Are you sure? No. But it's the only way to find answers. Be careful. Once you're inside, extraction becomes complicated. I know. What do you need from us? Jun-suk considered. Monitor communications. If I go silent longer than 72 hours, assume compromise. Understood. Anything else? Find the maid. Before they do. We're trying. Try harder. He deleted that conversation, too. His phone buzzed with new instructions. Report to Sotho addresses will be provided within in 24 hours. Bring nothing. Arrive alone. Integration begins immediately. Jun-suk set the phone down. Integration. Not orientation. Not training. Integration suggested absorption. Becoming part of something larger. He stared out the window. Taegu continued around him. People shopped. Talked. Lived ordinary lives. He was about to enter a system designed to remain invisible to exactly those people. A system that had operated for decades without detection. A system now being weaponized. His coffee arrived. He drank slowly. Tomorrow he would go to Seoul. He would integrate. He would observe from inside what he had been observing from outside. And when he learned enough, he would decide what to do with that knowledge. But tonight, he allowed himself one moment of certainty. The maid had chosen to protect him. Now he would try to understand why. And if possible, he would return that choice. Even if she never knew. Even if he disappeared trying. Outside, evening settled over Taegu. Lights came on across the city. Jun-suk finished his coffee. Then began preparing for a role he did not want but could not refuse. Inside the machine that had dismantled his empire. Inside the filter that had tested his survival. Inside the system that now wanted to use him. He stood. Left the cafe. Walked into street building with night crowds. Behind him, surveillance continued. Ahead, Seoul waited. And somewhere between observation and participation, the war he had avoided was about to begin. Not with violence. But with something more dangerous. Information. The kind that could not be unlearned. The kind that would force a choice. Stay silent and survive. Or speak and risk everything. He turned his phone off one final time. Not to hide. But to choose who would speak first. When the moment came. When silence was no longer enough. When the only option left was the one he had avoided since the night he came home late. Action. Deliberate. Irreversible. Necessary. He disappeared into the crowd. And the city swallowed him whole. Just another person. Just another face. Just another survivor. Learning to become something else entirely.